Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedugba. The headlines. Detained Binance executive sues NSA, EFCC. Military declares Delta monarch, 7 others wanted. Mozambique approves extradition treaty with Rwanda. Details shortly. We begin the news at this hour in Nigeria, where the detained Binance executive, Tigran Gambaryan, has accused the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, and the Economic Financial Crimes Commission of violating his fundamental human rights. Gambaryan, in an originating motion, sought declaration that his detention and seizure of his international passport contravened Section 35, subsection 1 and 4 of 1999 Constitution. He urged the court to order the NSA and the EFCC to release him from their custody and return his international travel passport with immediate effect. Gambaryan also sought an order of perpetual injunction restraining the respondents and their agent from further detaining him in relation to any investigation into or demands from Binance. He also urged the court to order the respondents to issue a public apology to him. In South Nigeria, the Nigerian Army Defense Headquarters has declared 8 persons wanted over their roles in the recent killing of 17 military personnel at Okwama community in Uheli South local government area of Delta State. The military released the list on Thursday at a briefing in Abuja. Those declared wanted are the newly installed traditional ruler of Ewu Kingdom, Clement Ikolo, Ogeneru Kare, President General of Ewu, Professor Ekpekpo Afon, and Dawe Dennis Bakriri, Akevro Daniel Omotogbo, Akata Malawi David, St. Clair Oliki Ruben Baru, and Igoli Abi. And still in Delta State, 2 weeks after 17 soldiers were killed in an ambush in Okwama community of Delta State, south of Nigeria, the hunt for the masterminds has not ceased. Residents of Orere, one of the communities raided by the military personnel, have raised alarm over alleged torture and harassment by soldiers. News Center's correspondent Austin Azu has details.
A visit to Orere, one of the affected communities, reportedly to have been raided by the military. Residents frown at the manner the military carried out their operations. Greater fate could have been without the extreme embarrassment and torture it brought. Some residents of Orere, a predominantly farming community, narrated their experience when the soldiers came calling.
From then, I moved direct with them to the community town hall. When we got there, they used all the whole men sit down for ground. Many of them, they marched there for back, say they be criminal, that they kill their people for the riverside.
So you just waking up from your bed, the next thing you see are more than 200 military men with guns and ammunition everywhere. This community already is not even by the river bank. So there is nothing connecting us to Okwama. Even if they are investigating what transpired in Okwama, the way and manner the Nigerian army is going about it, I think is not right. If gunboat came from the river of army yesterday, where four healers of army came from the land. So then they now hold me, beating me, they now drag me enter their boat, that I should show them the community. Then I follow them down to the community. The moment we step into the community, entrance of the community, they now shoot, they started shooting. So they now drag everybody to the juju side to destroy the juju and went to the shrine, the community town hall to mess everybody up. They injure 5 to 7 people. Even myself, they even injure me. Students themselves, when they want to write the exam yesterday, run loss. Even Tina self, some of them said they find them. They never see them up to date.
Other victims said they are yet to see their loved ones who ran for their lives when soldiers stormed the community with gunboats.
Everybody they run, where the shooter they run, never see them. My people don't go to the mama did the time, everybody never see them now.
Meanwhile, the Director of Media Operations of the Defense Headquarters, Major General Edward Buba, in a statement, said soldiers are combing some communities in Delta and Bayelsa states in search of wanted suspects who are on the run, and to recover weapons and arrest the perpetrator of the killers of 17 soldiers in the area. In Orere community, Delta State, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
The parents of the abducted Kurugasco children at the Chukun local government area of Kaduna State have finally been reunited with their children several days after being handed over to the Kaduna State government. The children, who were rescued from northern Zamfara State by the Nigerian army and brought back to Kaduna State on Sunday, were officially handed over to the governor on Monday. Surprisingly, the parents of the kidnapped school children were not present during the ceremony, which sparked lots of controversy.
Allah ne dora mana wata kaddara mutane da ba irin namu ba sau kwashe mu sai kai mu cikin daji. Allah kuma ya ba mu mafita muka fito, an karbe mu hannu bibbiyu, an taimaka mana, an ba marasu lafiya magani waɗanda jikinsu bai masu daɗi ba, an taimake mu matuƙa, mun ji daɗi gaskiya. Muna godiya ga baya goyon marayu, Allah ya ƙara ɗaukaka. Muna godiya ga gwamna, Allah ya ƙara ɗaukaka, Allah ya ƙara taimakawa. Zuwa nan ya ƙara man ƙwarin gwiwa akan cewa iman Allah da sai na yi karatu matuƙa. Allah ya so ya.
Sunana Aisha Muhammad. Muna godiya ga gwamnati da uwan marayu da suka taimaka mana. Allah ya sa muka ga iyayenmu lafiya, su ma suka ga mu lafiya. Muna fata Allah ya ƙara ɗaukaka su. Mu ma Allah ya ba mu fatan da muke buri a rayuwarmu.
Ba mu san a Kaduna ma an ɗauke mu wani abu kusa da wajen gwamna da sakataren gwamna. Ubangiji Allah, muna roƙonka, Allah ka saka mu wa'annan mutane, kuma ya Allah ina roƙonka, annan mu dai Allah ba ma nan kuri gaba, jihar Kaduna ma gaba daya, muna fata wannan shine ɗaukar ɗalibai a kai su wani wuri ne. Allah ubangiji Allah ka sa wannan.
Na farko ne na miƙa godiya ga Allah subhanahu wataala ya kawo mu rana irin teku. Alhamdulillah, daga lokacin da Aminu Jibrin Gwadabe ya tura mu sarki kurga sako ta voicemail cewa ɗaliban nan an karɓo su sun kusan shigowa garin Kaduna. Mun fita muna tare da sarki kurga, mun fita waje mun gaya mu iyaye da yan uwa da abokan arziki. Daga lokacin irin iyaye aka dinga fitowa ana ganin kamar ma an gasa, wanda kuma murnin ya dinga ci gaba da kuma gudunmawar da mai girma gwamnati ya kai na palliatives. Ana ganin an kawo wannan kaya, ana ce kuma ga labarin da iso muna da cewa yaran nan sun iso. To alhamdulillah, gaskiya ba za mu manta ba, ko ba za mu ci muna miƙa godiya mu ba, sai mu miƙa godiya ga mai girma shugaban kasa Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, da kuma mai girma gwamnatin jihar Kaduna, da shugaban sojojin Najeriya CJ Musa, da kuma mai ba shugaban kasa shawara akan harkar tsaro watan Nuhu Ribadu, wa'inda sun yi bakin yin su, kuma Allah kare mana su alhamdulillah. Saboda ba dan koi ba, saboda ba a taɓa ɗaukan yara tun da aka fara na Chibok, na Yawuri, na Kagara, na ina ne, duk ba wanda aka yi wanda zai yara suka dawo cikin kwana 16 ko 15 irin na Kurga.
And now to politics. A former national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Uche Secondus, and members of the Presidential Campaign Council of the party for the 2023 general elections in Rivers State have declared loyalty and support for President Bola Tinubu and the state governor, Siminalayi Fubara. A former Minister of Transportation and Director General, PDP PCC Rivers State, Dr. Abiye Sekibo, made a declaration during a news briefing in Port Harcourt on Thursday. The council supported the PDP presidential candidates in 2023, Atiku Abubakar, in the last elections. And to unpack these, I'm joined live on the news by a political analyst, Jide Ojo. Good evening, Jide Ojo. It's glad to have you join me.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Jide. Thank you for asking. Politics in Nigeria seems to be, interesting with the latest news that the former PDP national chairman is supporting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What do you make of these as a member of the ruling APC?
Nothing. What did I make of it? You see, in politics, there are two broad sides. we have the Siberian, and we have the Saudi Arabian. Siberia is a desolate land. It's an infertile land. It's a land that is unproductive. And then we have the Saudi Arabia that is full of oil, gold, and minerals. Most politicians don't want to be in Siberia. They want to be in Saudi Arabia for obvious reason of self-survival. Uche Secondus has been out of power since he was kicked out before the 2023 election and was supplanted by Dr. Iyochayu. Even Iyochayu that was brought in to replace him has equally been removed from office. And when you look at it, it's not been relevant. Nobody has heard about him. And he has seen an opportunity to regain some leverage. So I wish he had joined APC ahead of election to work for Mr. President. But unfortunately, he has an axe to grind with Nyesom Wike, who actually brought him to national chairmanship of PDP and also was the architect of his removal. So now that he has left for APC and Wike has remained in PDP, let's see how much relevance he will be able to garner in weeks ahead. But they want to play double game. In one breath, they want to support Adebola and Tinubu. In another breath, they want to support Fubara at the state level.
Okay.
That tells you that it's all about survival, political survival.
Well, just to put it out there, Jide, you are not a member of the ruling APC. But now, is there a nexus between this support for Mr. President and the Rivers politics, considering the fact that Uche Secondus is from Rivers State?
That's the explanation I've been trying to give you, that there's a nexus between, it's a political intrigue that is playing out. That I can say, matter of fact, it's a political intrigue, and it's politics of relevance. So there is issue of political survival, there's issue of relevance, there's issue of economic gains. Don't forget, if Secondus and Sekibo, I recall Sekibo was the chairman for a PDP presidential campaign in Rivers State, but Wike did not allow him to bring Atiku to campaign in Rivers State. And it was that bad. So now he and Secondus are seeking relevance in APC and hoping that maybe now that Adebola Tinubu is going to compile his ambassadorial list and also board position, they will be able to gain one thing or the other politically.
Now, having said that,
politics of survival.
Right. Okay. Having stated that, Jide, what would that mean for Nyesom Wike?
Hello, are you there?
Okay, I'm there. I can hear you. I was asking what this would translate to be for Nyesom Wike, since Secondus is openly backing Governor Fubara.
Wike is made. Wike is the governor of FCT. Is our governor over here in Abuja. Even though constitutionally speaking, is not, will not be referred to as a governor, given the fact that FCT is only as minister, and there are two ministers governing FCT. That's Minister of State and the substantive minister. So this shouldn't come to Nyesom Wike as a surprise. As a grassroots politician himself. That's the game Wike himself played. For the first time, Wike played anti-party. by campaigning for Adebola Tinubu to win his state. And that's why today he sits as the Minister of FCT, despite being in opposition. So everybody who is a grassroots politician, who is a politician of note, knows that, as sharks bay for blood, that's the same way politicians bay for money and relevance and influence and authority. So we will just be having a good laugh, because this is a feeble attempt for secondus as a quibble to have some political relevance. Whether Adebola Tinubu will be impressed to accommodate and compensate Sekibo and Secondus, I don't know. Because they've not actually contributed anything to the political fortune of APC. So now that they possibly thought it's time for Asiwaju, don't forget that just last week the news filtered out that Asiwaju may be reshuffling his cabinet ahead of May 29, and then the board position has not been filled, ambassadorial position has not been filled, so many appointments to be made. So perhaps Sekibo and Ewuche Secondus are thinking they could worm their way into the heart of Adebola Tinubu to get some political relevance and patronage. So this is all about getting political patronage. But in some weekend, we'll just be having a good laugh. As far as he is concerned, it doesn't wield so much influence in APC as to tell Ganduje, for instance, or tell Tinubu not to appoint someone.
Well, that's the most we can take, I'm afraid. Thank you so much for your insight on the news. Jide Ojo, a political analyst, thank you once again.
It's my pleasure. Albert.
You're live with News Central TV. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedugba. The headlines. Detained Binance executive sues NSA, EFCC. Military declares Delta monarch, 7 others wanted. Mozambique approves extradition treaty with Rwanda. Details shortly. Thank you for staying tuned. Economic experts in Africa have raised concern over the rising debt crisis, which is surging at a fast pace. Speaking at the recent International Conference on African Debt Crisis and International Financial Architecture in Accra, Ghana, the stakeholders addressed the role of global financial bodies like the IMF in financing and debt servicing. The conference, which runs for 4 days, is organized by the International Development Economists Associates in Accra, Ghana. Now, News Center's correspondent Adeshewa Odushoga is live in Accra, Ghana, and files in this report.
The African continent is grappling with a huge debt crisis, which may be hindering it from adequate access to finance, financing its climate action, achieving its sustainable development goals, and improving its economic growth potential. The continent has continued to be victims of Western economic shocks with rising interest rates and a devalued local currency, which is making it almost impossible to service its debts. Economic and financial experts within and outside the continent have gathered in this room, forming an international conference to discuss the African debt crisis and the international financial architecture.
When you have a problem, the IMF comes and tries to reduce the damage done. But the question is, who was the arsonist in the first place? Okay, this is a problem. You are not going to you cannot control the US in this situation. When the US chooses to raise interest rates, I mean, this current raising of interest rates, was it because of a big problem which needed interest rates to be raised? No, it was because the US Federal Reserve Bank wanted to discipline organized labor.
We need to understand as Africans that nobody owes us a living.
During the conference, a spotlight was shed on countries in the Sahel region, bounded by a common currency of the CFA franc. Conversations around how the CFA franc is keeping the countries poor and the need to exit and establish an alternative currency were brought to the fore.
We'll have to either reform the systems or transitioning out. And that's the debate we have now. And how do we ensure that the transition is smooth, not chaotic, but result into a system that deliver on expected growth dividend that people are waiting for and looking for is the main challenge. And there's been a lot of discussion in the past, and you heard today that one aspect will be to make sure that we have enough foreign reserve as a caution.
Or is it an impossible association?
The speakers at the event who spoke in turn highlighted what they tagged as the unwarranted role of the global financial bodies like the IMF in debt restructuring for African countries and how it is designed to keep the continent indebted with a rising interest rate.
We've got to figure out a way of insulating our own currencies from dependence on the US dollar, which is something that I think the new Senegalese president, for example, is trying to sort of think about. So these I see as as kind of solutions way forward.
As part of the numerous resolutions, speakers here are urging African leaders to exploit their respective natural resources as a source for foreign reserves, form a continent-based financial body, and a common currency that reflects its macroeconomics, amongst others. In Accra, Ghana, for News Central, Adeshawa Odushoga.
And I'm joined live by our correspondent who is live in Accra, Ghana, Adeshawa Odushoga, to speak more about this. Adeshawa, it's a pleasure to have you join me. Good evening from here.
Hi, Adebola. Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Now, so far from all those who have spoken, what would you say is the primary cause of bad debts in Africa?
All right. I'm taking a cue from many of the speakers here. One of the major contributors for bad debt is the rise in interest rates from creditors, and particularly spotlighting the United States of America. And also another thing to consider is that many of these loans are gotten from with foreign currencies, and then looking at the exchange rate, the fluctuating nature of the exchange rate, it's important to note that to pay back this debt means that many of these African countries who are paying with their local currency would have to pay, in plentiful. Taking Nigeria, for example, looking at how the naira, it keeps devaluing against the dollar. So imagine a loan that had been taken a couple of years ago when the dollar was just about 500 naira to a dollar, and now that it is exchanging for about 1,200. So it explains the inability of these African countries to pay back this debt. So rising interest rates and fluctuating exchange rate is one of the core reasons why many African countries may be finding it difficult to pay back their loans. Another thing to consider is that many of the African economies are not industrialized. Speakers have said that it is now time for African leaders to begin to consider industrializing its economy and not based on the commodity-based economies where the prices are determined by leaders in the Western countries. Also, African leaders have been advised to come together to form an economic bloc, as a continent, and then not rely on, solely on international global financial bodies like the International Monetary Fund, who have been, alleged to be biased as it concerns African countries, as well as credit rating agencies. So many of this and more are one of the contributors. And also one of the key things to consider when I was speaking with some of the speakers here is that some of the loans that are gotten by African leaders, one needs to begin to examine what these loans are gotten for. Because unfortunately, some African leaders will take loans to fund their recurrent expenditures like salaries, and then even for capital projects like road infrastructures. Most times, these infrastructures, these road infrastructures are not completed within the grace period that the loans were taken for. So it becomes almost impossible or even difficult for them to pay back these loans when they are yet start getting revenues for the projects which these loans were taken for in the first place. So these and more are one of the reasons why Africa has found itself to where it is now, looming in the debt crisis. 24 out of 55 African countries, this is half of the entire continent, looming in a crisis. So it explains why conferences like this have become crucial and important to be held, to find a way to get Africa out of this mess, to say Adebola.
Well, let's talk a bit about participation. What are the numbers like in terms of African countries who attended these events?
Yes, we have an array of Africans here at the summit. Particularly today, the summit that just ended, panel that just ended, we have countries like Kenya, we have Egypt, we have Ghana, we have Nigeria, we have, a host of other countries representing the different zones, like the North Africa, the West Africa, the East Africa as well, which Kenya represents. And that they have been able to spotlight the crucial challenges that are specific to these countries, this African countries. So we have the different economists, industry leaders, and even academicians right here in this room from all across different parts of the continent, and even outside the continent, discussing the debt as it affects each of these African countries.
Well, thank you so much for your coverage. Adeshewa Odushoga, our correspondent right there live in Accra, Ghana. Thank you once again, Adeshewa.
Thank you, Adebola, for having me.
In a bid to learn from the successful Borno model of peace building in Nigeria's northeast, a delegation from the Accra Initiative of Ghana visited the Borno State Deputy Governor in Maiduguri. The Borno model of peace building led to the surrender of over 160,000 insurgents. News Center's Umaru Kirawa has more.
Maiduguri, the capital city of Nigeria's Borno State. Peace finally taking root, and the state is recovering from the shackles of the age-old insurgency. People now go about their day-to-day activities without fear of attack by insurgents. This is largely attributed to the Borno model, a persuasive peace-building initiative that encourages voluntary surrender by insurgents to embrace peace. The Accra Initiative delegation, comprising high-ranking officials from Ghana, are here in Borno State to study the Borno model.
It is better for us to learn, and we hope that by the time we go back, we'll be able to inculcate these steps in the methods in which we are addressing insurgency.
Good things like this need to be showcased and told for people to know that we have homegrown solutions to problems that hitherto people thought we couldn't do anything about.
Kinetic operations win the war, but only non-kinetic operations can win the peace. And this is what Borno model has showcased, how to win the peace. To win the war, the military has done that. But to win the peace, you need the political will, you need the coordination, you need the cohesive management of resources and the exploration of innovative ideas, organic to contextual communities. It has to be locally sourced, locally owned, so that the community can feel a sense of ownership and belonging. And that is what the Borno model is.
The exchange of ideas and experiences, particularly the persuasive mechanisms, is said to be crucial in helping Ghana and other African nations develop effective peace-building strategies. The Borno model of peace building has gained international recognition for its success in countering insurgency and maintaining peace in the region.
I'm so happy because the whole world, have started recognizing the approaches that the Borno State government and the federal government have been doing towards the DDR program. Everybody has his own peculiar problems, but I believe if we harness what is obtainable from each other, I think we'll find a solution to the problems that we have been facing.
The visit by the Accra Initiative delegation to Borno State also aims to forge a strong partnership between the two West African countries and pave the way for further collaboration in combating insurgency across Africa. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Coming up, Burkina Faso junta extends general mobilization against jihadists. We have details after the break. Join us again. Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedugba. The headlines. Detained Binance executive sues NSA, EFCC. Military declares Delta monarch, 7 others wanted. Mozambique approves extradition treaty with Rwanda. Details shortly. The news continues in West Africa, where Burkina Faso's military junta plans to extend by a year a general mobilization introduced to help combat jihadist attacks. The transitional president, Captain Ibrahim Traore, who came into power in 2022 coup, brought in the measure in April last year to give authorities power to requisition people from the age of 18 if needed. The West African nation has been battered by jihadist insurgency that swept in from neighboring Mali in 2015. Thousands of civilians, troops and police have been killed. 2 million people have fled their homes in anger within the military at a mountain toll sparked 2 coups in 2022. A decree which expires on April 18th will be extended by a year in order to consolidate the achievement and to continue the fight against terrorism in the country. Family, friends and supporters of Senegal's president-elect Bassirou Diomaye Faye in his home village expressed pride, fear for the task that lies ahead, and hope that Senegal's youngest elected leader will make real changes in the country, where 1 in 3 of around 17 million people are living in poverty. Faye has comfortably won the Senegalese presidential election with 54.28% of vote in the first round, official provisional results showed on Wednesday. The announcement of the official provisional results seems to clear the way for a handover of power between Saul and his successor.
Quand il est arrivé, il s'est accroupi devant moi. Il a sollicité des prières. Il m'a remercié. En même temps que sa maman. Vraiment, j'ai failli pleurer. Parce que je sais que mon éducation a abouti à un bon port. Nous sommes contents, mais aussi en actif. Parce que titre bi mooy am réew bu tegoo ci sa loos ñëpp war laa yaakaar nga war a defar lépp kenn mënta defar lépp ba mu jàgg nga defar lépp ñu yaakaar la si il faut nga tiit bu fekkee am boo amee jom di nga tiit loolu mooy xalaatu suñu xalaat waajuram ak ay mbokkam yëpp.
Et c'était pas d'ailleurs son objectif. Il n'a jamais eu vraiment l'intention de s'impliquer en politique, mais son ami Ousmane Sonko, n'est-ce pas, c'est beaucoup plus lui qui l'a attiré vers la politique, n'est-ce pas, parce qu'il lui a présenté un projet qui était attrayant pour lui, dans lequel il peut se retrouver.
Beaucoup de fierté et beaucoup de satisfaction pour avoir été à côté de lui depuis les premières heures de Pastef, avec toutes les tournures qu'ont prises les événements. C'est vraiment la consécration d'une longue lutte démocratique, d'une conquête vraiment loyale.
We head now to Southern Africa, where supporters from South Africa's ruling party, ANC, and ex-President Jacob Zuma's new opposition party, MK, gather near a court in Durban as the ruling party files a new court application to stop MK from using its name, denouncing intellectual property theft. Zuma used the opportunity to address party supporters after the hearing to reiterate his party's goals.
Sinethuba-ke manje lokuthi njengoba sibaningi kangaka sivote sonke kanye kanye. Ngifisa ngisho ukuthi amaqembu lawa amaningi kule game nje lesiya kuyo akathi ukuyiyeka into zawo ezela emkhontweni ngoba sifuna ukuwina mase siqeda ukuwina ebese sishintsha imithetho sikhiphe imithetho yabelungu kubuye imithetho yase-Afrika ngenhlanhla ondaba ezitha nezilo na wonke amakhosi avumelana nathi kuvuma abanikazi bomhlaba esifuna ukuthi babuye bazophatha izwe labo izwe lobabamkhulu
okubaluleke kakhulu ukuthi umkhonto uzoshintsha umthethosisekelo ngedignity yethu Africans. Unikeze amakhosi indawo yawo ukuthi akwazi ukubusa as ANC ibiwa neglect amakhosi.
A human rights group on Thursday said the widow of an anti-monarchist opposition activist murdered last year has been arrested and questioned in Eswatini. Rights lawyer Tulani Maseko was shot dead as he watched television with his children at their home in the landlocked Southern African nation on January 21st, 2023. His wife, Taneli Maseko, was detained by King Boswatini III's police at about 21:40 hours on Wednesday night. She was told at a border post that she could not be let back into Eswatini as she was flagged as the most wanted person by the Eswatini government, and the human rights lawyer said this, adding her release came 4 hours later. Her mobile phones and travel documents were confiscated, and she was ordered to report to the police at noon on Thursday. The Mozambican parliament has ratified extradition agreements with Rwanda, despite concerns it could be used against critics of Rwandan President Paul Kagame. Mozambican opposition lawmakers voted against the deal, saying it could enable political persecution. Mozambique's Bar Association expressed the same concern. The Rwandan authorities have been accused of targeting critics in several countries across Africa, including Mozambique, and this is denied by Rwanda. The two countries have a close relationship, with Rwandan troops deployed in northern Mozambique to help fight Islamist militants. Several thousands of Rwandans who fled the 1994 genocide live in exile in Mozambique. In East Africa, Rwanda has received 57 Eritrean and 35 Sudanese asylum seekers days after 91 other refugees and asylum seekers arrived at the country from Libya. The 183 refugees and asylum seekers will remain in Rwanda pending the processing of their resettlement application, the UN's refugee agency said on Wednesday. The arrivals are part of a program supported by the UN's refugee agency, African Union and European Union. Since 2019, the program has sent more than 2,200 refugees and asylum seekers of various nationalities from Libya to Rwanda. Over 1,600 of them have been resettled in the US and across Europe. The bodies of two victims have been recovered from the wreckage of the Baltimore Bridge collapse following the emergence of audio from a first responder call. Authorities have confirmed that the bodies were found in a red pickup truck submerged approximately 25 feet underwater in the Patapsco River. The recovery efforts come after 1.6-mile Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed into the river following the collision with a container vessel in the early hours of Tuesday morning. The victims have been identified as Alejandro Hanenze, 35 from Mexico, and Dolian Ronali, 26 from Guatemala. Unfortunately, 4 individuals remain missing and are presumed dead. Due to hazardous conditions, further recovery efforts have been suspended, with officials declaring the operation a salvage mission. Russian investigators have announced a significant development in the probe into the recent Moscow concert hall attack, claiming to have uncovered evidence linking the attackers to Ukrainian nationalities. Speaking on the development, Svelata Petrenko, spokesperson for the Russian Investigative Committee, disclosed that evidence suggests the suspects received substantial financial support, including cryptocurrency, from sources in Ukraine. She adds that one individual allegedly involved in financing the terrorists has been apprehended. This comes after President Putin previously accused Ukraine and the West of involvement, despite an Islamic State group claiming responsibility for the attack. However, Ukraine and its allies in the West have vehemently denied any involvement, dismissing the accusation as absurd.
В результате работы с задержанными террористами, исследования изъятых у них технических устройств, анализа сведений о финансовых операциях, получены доказательства их связи с украинскими националистами. В распоряжении следствия имеются подтвержденные данные о поступлении исполнителям теракта значительных сумм денежных средств и криптовалюты из Украины, которые использовались при подготовке преступления. Установлен и задержан еще один подозреваемый. Он участвовал в схеме финансирования террористов. Следствие будет ходатайствовать перед судом об избрании в отношении него меры пресечения в виде заключения под стражу.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog reaffirmed the strong alliance between the United States and Israel during a meeting on Thursday with a delegation of U.S. lawmakers from Democratic Party organized by an AIPAC initiative. Addressing recent public differences, particularly related to the conflict in Gaza, Herzog emphasized the unbreakable bond between the two nations, describing it as irreplaceable. Herzog highlighted the shared vision of combating terrorism, securing the return of hostages, advancing peace with neighboring countries. He underscored the importance of this alliance to the well-being of both nations, urging the focus on upgrading and strengthening the partnership. The meeting reflects the ongoing commitment of both Israel and the United States to their long-standing alliance despite recent challenges.
Future. The United States of America has no greater friend than Israel, and Israel has no greater friends than the United States of America. I said it in my speech in front of the joint session of the House in 19th of July, just a few months ago. The world has turned since then upside down, but this unbreakable bond, this alliance, is as strong as ever and is irreplaceable. We all have to Biden. We share the same vision of eradicating terror, of bringing the hostages back home, of moving towards peace with our neighbors and finding it a possibility once we finish the ability of our enemies to carry out terror from Gaza against us. And finally, and most importantly, we share the vision of inclusion of Israel in the region, which I believe strongly in, including the normalization with Saudi Arabia. Because this bond is a unique bond in world history of two nations who believe in true humanitarian values. We will work together to alleviate and upgrade the humanitarian aid to Gaza, and we will work together endlessly to bring the hostages back home, and we will work endlessly to fight terror, stand up to the empire of evil.
In business, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has refuted allegations of reducing petrol and diesel pump prices. The NNPCL spokesperson, Olufemi Shoneye, dismissed these claims as untrue and urged the public to ignore them. Recent social media posts suggest price cuts below 600 naira for petrol and below 900 naira for diesel, but the NNPC Limited clarified that no such adjustments were made, emphasizing its commitment to maintaining petroleum product availability at its retail outlets nationwide. The company emphasized the inaccuracy of the circulating report. The surge in petrol prices post-subsidy removal by President Bola Tinubu in May of 2023, soaring from around 200 naira to over 600 naira. In the world of sports, Fulham defender Calvin Bassey is set to return to action for Saturday's Premier League clash against Sheffield United after sustaining an injury while on international duty. Bassey, who missed Nigeria's friendly against the Black Stars of Ghana, swiftly travelled from Morocco to London ahead of Nigeria's second friendly against Mali. Initial assessments suggest his injury isn't a severe one as initially feared, as reported by The Standard. Bassey is expected to be part of Fulham's squad for the upcoming match at Bramall Lane. Former Ham aims to build on their recent 3-0 victory over Tottenham as they strive to end the season on a strong note. And Nottingham Forest mourns the passing of football legend Larry Lloyd at the age of 75. The English Premier League club confirmed his death earlier today. Lloyd, renowned for his achievements as European Cup winner with Nottingham Forest and also for clinching titles with Liverpool in the 1970s, has left a lasting legacy. A pivotal figure in Forest's historic back-to-back European Cup triumphs under the esteemed management of Brian Clough, Lloyd's contribution to the sport will be remembered. Hailing from Bristol, the former international defender earned 4 caps for England and later transitioned to management, overseeing teams like Wigan and Notts County. Lloyd's journey in football began at Bristol's Rovers before he caught the eye of Liverpool's revered manager, Bill Shankly, who secured his services for €50,000 back in 1969. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Detained Binance executive sues NSA, EFCC. Military declares Delta monarch, 7 others wanted. Mozambique approves extradition treaty with Rwanda. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.